What's up, fellas? So, obviously, my videos got 0 views. Speaking against, obviously we exist in the bubble of Western propaganda, which is falling, but even though that means the individual might wake up, it's like I'm not going to be allowed to access people except for in reality, and like, what? I'm supposed to get, who's going to watch like 50 minutes of my, I wasn't even rambling. I was actually pretty like terse. Like I was delivering a lot of information, but it doesn't matter, right? It's hopeless, and there's no reason to harp on it. So this video, I could talk about various stuff. I could talk about, CIA is kind of responsible for everything that's gone wrong with this country. I mean, like that, but more. But it's like, I think I already talked about it. Got zero. I won't get any views from that. And I'm never gonna get views. I'm just shadow banned forever. Like it's a horrible, you know. It's just America's just an evil version of China now. I wouldn't even have to speak about these things in China. Like China's ahead of me. Like they had Mao, right? They already followed the path of civilization and humanity. There are a billion people. We're 300 million. We used to be white people. We used to be a lot of white people. Now we're like, if you really look at America, like actually, if you look at the population grew, but like, one time it was like 100% Americans. I mean, 100% white people. Which, it's like that's Americans, right? But it's like, now it's like, what, 40% white people? So really, like, the actual American population declined, and we just replaced all the people the CIA murdered with immigrants. And, you know, yeah, I'm not going to talk about Freudian stuff or, like, masturbation, which is, like, Freud himself was saying it's a disease. And what the CIA did was they, basically implanted in the superego of all these children to masturbate, but it's not natural to masturbate. And you could like really easily fix it, right? Like it's the id, they trick you into thinking it's the id, which is responsible for masturbation, but that doesn't make sense. That's not how it works. It's the superego. The CIA kind of codes the superego of children to masturbate. And that ties into how the CIA exploits Freudian discovery. But Freud's great. If you read Freud, like I have all of Freud's books, and maybe if you read Freud, you're gonna read a book burned version where they alter the words and destroy them. Because my Freudian books are from 1920. Like my grandma was reading these Freudian books, so this is before the CIA started their book burning. And now at this point, I doubt you're gonna get a good Freudian book. Like you could listen to me because I have these old Freudian books and I read them. But the thing about Freud is he's just Nietzsche. He believed in the Overman hypothesis, that man was a adaptable and overcoming animal. And China, the proof is in the pudding. Like China's literally Freudian theory confirmed. And the thing about China is they're like, we don't need Freudian theory. Like, what's this for? Like, we're Chinese. We're just going to be atheists. And it worked. Like, that is Freudian theory. I made a video about how like Freudian theory is kind of like a pseudo-religion, where it's like the more energy you put into it, the worse it is, because it's obviously being used for exploitation. But I think I talked about that. I said I wasn't going to talk about this stuff, and I did. But this video I'm going to talk about classical music and good art, because obviously bad art is a mind control technique. It's damaging the superego, so that people chase fleeting empty pleasures, right? Like this is what the Bible spoke about, like false idols, like worshiping statues, right? Like people worship their phones. And like dogs are better than people in reality. This ties into what I spoke on earlier, because dogs chew on a stick or they play with a ball. That's like a real thing. But like what people do is they're like on their phones and they're like, oh, I'm superior. But they're just getting mind controlled on their phone, while the dog is like sharpening its teeth, it's eating food, it's getting exercise, right? And in reality, people, the Westerners, the mind controlled Westerners who are so schizophrenic have a lot to learn from dogs, because dogs are not schizophrenic. Dogs are just tortured. And I think the greatest example of a Westerner, or like a CIA victim, which is just an American, is a Pavlov's dog, and this is why Thomas Pynchon wrote like a lot about Pavlov, because the main character of the Gravity's Rainbow was put into a Pavlov's dog experiment when he was a baby, MK Ultra, right? So I can't believe Pynchon, like, you know, what's considered to be the greatest modern novel, Gravity's Rainbow, is just the main character was a baby put through the MK Ultra project. And when did Gravity's Rainbow come out? 1976? When did MK Ultra start? 1953? That's crazy, but, you know, that's before CIA consolidated power. That's before they assassinated JFK, so Pynchon was able to kind of get away with it. And you know what? Pynchon was probably like, saw that JFK shit, and he's like, fuck, I'm releasing this book. And then now Pynchon's just like, wow, this thing's been going on a long time. Whatever. Yeah, but you know, you got Pavlov dog into getting like erections when a bomb was falling, which is pretty funny. But the thing about Freudian theory being you know, I think Freud really did continue the legacy of Nietzsche, because he presents the framework, the scientific framework by which you become the Overman. And what becoming the Overman is basically just becoming like a musician, or like a, obviously not masturbating, right? That's such a weird, stupid thing. But as I've said, like, Westerners are animals. They've been turned into animals because animals, you can control them. But you can't control an Overman, because an Overman's like, you know, I'm going to move to China. I'm just going to move to China because they have a classical music, they have classical music there now. I could just become a classical musician in China. I don't have to be an animal surrounded by animals. I could be with humans, right? With, like, you know, obviously the word soul is kind of like changed meaning all the time, but basically, you know, in Jewish, you know, mythology, having a soul is like, I guess everyone has a soul or something, but it's like you don't really become a human until you read the book, right? And in China, they all read the book. They have their little book on how to be. So they're people. They're in society. What makes a person is a society. And I guess this, you know, I'll just talk about a random, like not a random theory, it's related, but the way people work they are social animals. And so, you know, it's like that poem, "A man is not an island unto himself." That's a great poem, and like, yeah, people do, like, have in their id, this is the id, right? They have a duty to their people, right? You have to do a service to your people. Like, people inherently have something where they kind of have to tell the truth, and then sometimes they have something where they have to lie because they got to keep, you know, it's like humanity isn't like, there's this illusion in the Western mind that humanity is like a, just a bunch of independent pieces, but in reality we're all connected. Some of us are designed to be liars, to test, you know, the leaders, right? And this is why the story of Noah's Ark, Sodom and Gomorrah, modern day China being the last not turned to ashes place is, you know, there's that's almost like a little overpopulation cure, right? Like, China's gonna own the world, and the Han Chinese, they're 10% of the world population, right? And you find this 10% number everywhere when it comes to master-slave dynamics. Most notably in Dubai and Qatar, because, as you might know, the Qatari citizens make up only 10% of the population, and yet they have the special rights, right? And likewise in Dubai, they make up 10% of the population, the Dubai citizens. But 90% are the slave workers, basically. And I think they actually have slaves there. And that's kind of what, you know, Israel wants. But, you know, Israel's kind of like a weird, they're too involved with the CIA. Like, they might just be kind of over for them. Plus they're like, I don't know, religion doesn't really work. Like, the thing about Islam is that it's like a bizarre sort of religion like Christianity, where like they have strict rules, but also they could just like, they're like the religion of peace, and then they just suicide bomb people. And it really is true. Like, these systems require schizophrenia, right? And schizophrenia is actually a tool you could use, right? Because if you're doing an immoral thing, you could use schizophrenia to say like, oh, I have no choice, and then you could act practically. But in China, they don't have schizophrenia, right? They just eat bats. They just eat whatever. They're like, oh, we're dying. Eat the dead guy. And that is not, they're just trying to survive. And I think the Chinese instinct is probably the greatest instinct of humanity, because that's the oldest society today, that's the strongest society. And I think we'll find that China will sort of be like the leader of the future, and the usherer in of utopia. And obviously I have my own theories on how a power structure should be structured. Like, obviously North Korea is a disaster because their leader is fat, right? Zero accountability. But like, really what you need is, you have to balance out power with like between the people and the masters, right? Like, a leader can't have privacy, right? Basically everyone's going to have to see the leader naked all the time. It's like, you want to have complete power over this country, you got to let people see you naked all the time on cameras. See everything you do. And that's kind of like, like King Solomon was a very successful king, right? And that's kind of what was going on then, because the people had direct access to the king. But now that our leaders are like hidden in bunkers in like Germany or something, or like, now our leaders are hidden in bunkers in Antarctica, right? That's hell. That's dystopia. But at least in China, they actually do have Xi Jinping there in Beijing, right? And like, since he wants to be safe, and since he's amongst his people, you have it so that everyone's safe. But then in America, the president doesn't have to be safe. He's like in a bunker in Antarctica. The CIA, they're just in Antarctica. It's like, no one's allowed in Antarctica. If you go to Antarctica, you'll get shot. And that's just where like Epstein and Maxwell and all these CIA evil people are. Maxwell with her, and they give her the most obvious body doubles too. Like, that's not her. They're just in Antarctica, and what's going to happen is, China's going to take Antarctica, and what's going to happen is they're going to go to Antarctica, and then like the first guy to step into Antarctica is going to like vaporize, because they have like a vaporizing perimeter around Antarctica. It's terrible. All our money's just going into spending energy to fuel this bunker in Antarctica. Whatever. And this video is extra long, but like, I was going to speak on classical music. Like, everyone knows classical music is the best. Like, it's just what music is supposed to be. It's just good. But the reason people don't listen to classical music or engage with it is because you have to devote some sort of energy to it, right? Because when you hear classical music, you're like, oh my god, that's so fucking hard, right? You listen to Beethoven playing piano, and you're like, what the fuck? How'd he do that? And then you hear rap music, it's like, boom, you're like, oh, that's easy, I could do that. So then you listen to rap music, and you're like, oh, this is real art. And, you're psyoped by the CIA and being lobotomized, right? But then once you actually engage with classical music and devote yourself, to it, you're like, oh man, I always knew classical music was like better. It's just it seems really hard, and people are designed to take the easy route. But really, the way this mind control apparatus works is like you're shown an easy